Charles Leclerc saw himself quite angered in the ending stages of the Las Vegas GP, where after a potential podium finish, he had to give up his race for Sainz to finish P3 and failed to convert on what could have been one of the best weekends for Ferrari. Even though the Maranello team closed in on McLaren in the Constructors' Championship, Leclerc has been massively angered and everything he said was broadcast on the radio. So with all this in mind, is there any chance that the culture will change from 2025 onwards, and if so, how does this bode for Hamilton's future in the Maranello team? It's safe to say that Leclerc's anger in Las Vegas is something that he couldn't have hidden even if he wanted to, because from a race that he was supposed to lead after chasing Russell for almost 10 laps to a race in which he finished P4 because of a botched strategy and undercut from his own teammate, it's quite some feelings that he would need to process. According to Leclerc, situations like this have been discussed before the race, and it's always him who is complying with the rules, and from now on he will only think about himself. When talking to his radio engineer Brian Bozzi after the race, Leclerc said, "Yeah, I did my job, but being nice F's me over all the effing time. All the effing time. It's not even being nice, it's just being respectful. I know I need to shut up, but at one point it's always the same. So, oh my effing God." Ferrari's pace was definitely there to fight for greater positions, and seeing Hamilton finish P2 after P10 goes to show that there is something that went terribly wrong in the Maranello team. The first one went when Sainz was supposed to give the position back to Leclerc because the Monegasque was clearly the faster driver, and by delaying this he definitely cost Leclerc around 1 second in lap time. This would have helped him a lot when he was exiting from the pit stop during the second pit stop, because obviously Leclerc is the driver who had the fresher power unit and was the faster driver compared to his teammate. So to see him losing time behind Sainz was utter nonsense from Ferrari. And when Leclerc got out of the pit stop, he was told by his race engineer that Sainz is given a team order to not pass him and to not put pressure on him, as he is supposed to put heat in the tyres and work to potentially catch Hamilton ahead. However, in the first opportunity that Sainz got, which was the DRS zone right after the first couple of corners, he utilised it and got past Leclerc. And in the meantime, Bozzi continued to talk to Leclerc in terms of nurturing his tyres and how Sainz was again told that he must not pass him, even though he already did. To this, Leclerc answered with even more anger, asking whether they had tried asking his teammate in Spanish. Of course, many might find this offensive, but at the heat of the moment, even in the cool-down lap, it was obvious that Leclerc was plain furious with what was going on in Ferrari, as Vasseur had to hop on the radio and calm him down. When Leclerc's race engineer gave him some directions in terms of pickup in the cool-down lap, the Monegasque driver said, "Effing pick up what the F you want, and the radio is on, I am sorry." So the situation in Ferrari is quite obvious. The team orders are not listened to, and while the situations are being discussed before the race, it does look like there is only one driver who respects them, and that is Charles. He is the man who brought Ferrari to where they are right now, although they haven't achieved much, to be fair, and they are yet to win the championship. But with the talent he has, and with the calmness in the way he drives, as well as the PR trainings he's received throughout his career with Ferrari, this is just way too much for him to comprehend. Even when talking about it after the race, Leclerc made sure to state the displeasure he has with Sainz and how he doesn't obey rules when they are clearly given to him by the team even before the race starts. Because while the overall result is great for the Constructors' Championship compared to the points McLaren received, the fight for P2 in the Drivers' Championship is still alive, and Leclerc missed out on crucial points. When talking about the first stint and how he cooked his tyres chasing Russell, which cost him losing positions to Sainz and Verstappen as well, the Monegasque driver said, I tried to be more aggressive in the first stint, but that's not necessarily what cost us. The medium tyre was really bad and the drop was sudden. After that, the pace on the hards was good, but yeah, that first stint cost us. I am not happy about Carlos, but I won't go into details. Why? Because we talk about these things before the race, and I'm always the one who respects those agreements. From now on, I will be thinking about myself only. It's a shame that I couldn't get more points on Norris. On the other hand, Sainz was also interrogated about the situation with Leclerc, and unlike his teammate, the Spaniard wanted to be more diplomatic and said that situations like this are never resolved in front of a mic, further stating, "I agreed not to talk to the media because we always talk here, we always make a mess. I agreed with him not to say anything to the media. It's stuff between me and him. I never open the radio. I never talk to the media because I don't like it. It's not a nice thing to do. It's not necessary." However, the questions just kept coming, and Sainz couldn't resist telling his side of the story, as he felt like he was played by his team as well. If we are to recall correctly, he called for 2 laps to be pitted because of the high graining on the tyre, and when the team called him, Hamilton followed him straight away. But Ferrari opted to leave him out at the very last second, risking a penalty on the way of doing so because he already committed to a pit stop. This also slowed down Sainz a lot, and obviously he drove the rest of the race mad, because to be called for a pit stop and to be told to stay out because your team is not ready is not something that you want to experience in a race, as Sainz himself was angered on the radio, telling his race engineer to wake up and focus on the race. Furthermore, elaborating about who's at fault for the situation between him and Leclerc, he stated, "I don't want to look for who's at fault. It's not the moment to talk or analyse. We need to look at what happened. I was already asking to pit 2 laps earlier because I knew Charles was faster and I wanted to let him by, but I wanted to get out of the way. Hamilton was coming behind him and I knew chaos was coming there. I asked to be pitted because there was a lot of graining and we couldn't do anything there. We didn't pit and I stayed out for 2 laps. Even on the lap where I wanted to pit, we made a mess at the pit entry and things didn't go well. But they didn't go well for me, they didn't go well for Shah. I also lost a lot of race time there. It wasn't a nice situation and it wasn't easy to manage. It went like this, and that's why I prefer to analyse later and not speak in front of a mic." There is one thing that is perfectly clear here. Leclerc has finally understood how hard it is to be a Ferrari driver. He is a man who has given his all to the team and has been through thick and thin, even in 2022, when at the beginning of the season it genuinely looked like they could fight for the championship before the upgrades turned out to be slowing down the car instead of increasing the performance. But at the end of the day, it's every man for himself, and maybe the behaviour of Sainz, which was also seen in a similar pattern in races like Silverstone 2022 and Monaco in 2022, is the primary reason why top teams had no intention of talking to him when there were seats in Mercedes and Red Bull available. On the other hand, this is the perfect time for the wake-up call for Leclerc to understand that if he is to deliver top-notch results and be the next champion for Ferrari, he would have to up his selfish game and not think about the greater good of the team. There has never been a champion who played the team game and gave his teammate help, and Leclerc won't be an excuse if he finds himself in a situation to fight for the title in 2025, or maybe under the newly regulated era from 2026 onwards. If he is struggling in terms of team orders, then the situation will get 10 times harder when Hamilton is next to him, because this is a man who is coming here to win everything and a driver who has a mission in front of him to become an 8-time world champion. It will be very interesting to see whether or not the situation will improve from next year, because it's obvious that Ferrari needs to work on many prospects, including the strategy and the intra-team battles, because it's one thing to let them fight on the track like McLaren did many times this year, but it's a whole other thing to have the team ruining the race from the pit wall and have drivers who are just not ready to commit to the greater good of the squad. With all this in mind, do you think that there is a situation in which Hamilton will pose a massive threat to Leclerc thanks to these mistakes made by the team that can go in his favour? And more importantly, do you think that maybe he will be at the receiving end of things due to the poor strategies and calls from the people responsible for it? Let us know in the comments below.